Hello.
Hey everybody,
How
how are
are
we
we
all
doing?
doing?
So there's a few people here. There's Jason Underwood. Hello, Jason.
Hey Jason.
And Bryant. So good to see you. We've got Deck Hoare. That's not a name I've seen before.
That's a
Um,
fabulous name.
in it. And one we can all relate to.
Speak for
And
yourself, Simon. I don't know what you mean.
I want to really look at the one that's on StreamYard, because that will combine both channels, won't it? So we've
I
also got
think so.
Gerald and Kim and Tortoiseshell and Vintage Moon, MA, Jonathan, Amanda. Hello, Amanda. Nancy, Patsy. Happy birthday, by the way, Patsy. And Frank so far. So yeah, it's good to see everybody. You're right there, Chris?
Yep, I was so what I'm doing, I see because I can't type in the StreamYard chat, I'm gonna go into my YouTube chat and pop that out
Yeah.
and I'll
That's
be
what
able to
I've
type
done.
in that.
So
Um
what we're doing, we're streaming through both the Hermit's Cave YouTube channel and Elemental Cartomancy channel. So it's a collaboration where we're both streaming. So we'll each of our have our individual chats, individual comments, I suppose. What the one on here on StreamYard that will appear here is an amalgamation of the two. So we think that's how it works. This is the first time either Chris or I have done it. So
yeah, it's an experiment. The people that
yeah.
have us both or subscribe to us both are probably like, what witchcraft is this? Why am I getting two notifications for everything?
We've got the power.
I know, I know. Well, Simon's got the power, people. I had to give Simon all my credentials, So if further down the line someone comes on and I don't know tries to get me cancelled by doing the helicopter on my channel or something, then you'll know that it's this chap and it's not me.
Pray do tell what the helicopter is.
Do you not know? Do you not know what the helicopter is? I feel like
No.
that's something I should maybe explain to you after we come off air. Then
Okay.
I think you
Okay.
probably be like.
I'm so green. I said something in Levi and Marty's chat the other day about I was sat edging whilst listening to them, and they was laughing their heads off. And I had to ask Elle what edging meant. I'm like, "What's the joke here?" And she's like, "They were like, you seriously don't know?" And I was like, "No, I don't. I don't. Tell
Oh,
me."
it's quite sweet.
So they had to explain it to me. So yeah, terrible. The things I miss out on. So yes, you'll have to tell me afterwards. This is quite this is quite impromptu, really, isn't it? It was only early today that we discussed doing this,
Yeah,
um,
true.
because we have done something similar before. We both did um, a chat and talking about the Marielle Tarot, which you went on to then do a whole study group for, which was amazing. But we just kind of
Yeah,
shared how our first thoughts and opinions on the deck and
yeah,
what we
that's right.
thought to
Yeah,
it, didn't we? How long ago
I
was
was.
that now?
Oh well, if it was before I started the Marielle study group, then gosh, it must have been. I want to say over a year ago, but yeah, like it must have been. Must have, a good while ago anyway.
Yeah.
Around about the I can forget what they're called, quarantine times, wasn't it?
Oh, okay. Yeah, probably. So, gosh, when did that end? That ended over a year ago now. So, yeah, wow.
Yeah, there you go then. Yeah,
Time flies, doesn't it? So as you can see, it's probably better if you point to it. Up at the top, this is a Cartomancy Cave special because it's on streaming through both of our. You have to work out which finger it is. I was
yeah,
like, well, the goddess is over in that corner, so if I point to the goddess, but yeah. So yeah, and it's lovely to see so many people here and tuning in and having a listen. So as you can probably tell from the title and also the beautiful rainbow coloured background to our chat today.
Yeah, I'm well impressed by that, by the way.
Are you?
Yeah, that's really cool.
It's so easy to do, really, really easy to do it. But so we're going to be talking about queer tarot. So how long have you had this now, Chris? I've had it 3 weeks.
I want to say I've maybe had it about 2 weeks then, because I ordered it. I think I ordered it whilst or just after you did your walkthrough. Because I think it was out of production or not. No, like on Amazon's usual, or we don't have any of these in stock, out of stock.
Yeah.
At first, but as soon as it came back in, I ordered myself a copy. So a couple of weeks.
I remember because when I ordered it, it said one left, more on the way. You know, it kind of tells you that they are going to get some more in. And yeah, so I snagged it, and it was a reasonable price. But we'll talk about pricing and everything when we come on to it. So we thought we'd just have a bit of a chat. Now we've had it for a few weeks. We've been working with it. I know at the time, particularly when I did a walkthrough of the deck, I said it's one that, you know, I would come back and probably share more thoughts about once I've worked with it. Did you do a walkthrough of this deck yet?
No, I've not
No.
actually. I've never done a walkthrough of this.
Okay. So, just before we go through, you know, what we think to the deck and cards in particular and things like that, I suppose I just wanted to throw a question out there. And again, you could throw questions at me as well. But why do you think it's important to have a queer tarot?
Well, I think it's all about representation, isn't it? So, and this means something different to everyone. So I think you could ask each individual this question and maybe get different answers. But just for me personally, right, from my personal story, I'm a gay man. I grew up and was brought up, well, in a Catholic family, Catholic school, primary school and secondary school. There was zero queer people around, definitely no gay teachers, or if there were, you weren't told about it, you didn't know about it. And any students who either were gay or, you know, that people had decided were gay were really picked on. And so because there wasn't that representation, because there weren't any role models, it was just, you know, it was something that was victimized, I guess. So just from my personal point of view, that for me is what happens when there isn't proper representation, and you can apply that to anything. You can apply that to LGBTQ, you know, race, body size. You can apply that to really anything at all. I think that's why just representation matters. Even in something like a tarot deck.
Yeah, I agree, and you're right about representation. I think, you know, having a deck like this is as important to the LGBTQ plus community as a melanated tarot is, you know, if you're a person of color or from a particular ethnic background, or an all-female deck. You know, if you want to see, you know, more female empowerment. Or maybe just as important to something like the divine masculine to males who felt that, you know, tarot has been very female. So I agree. How old are you, Chris? Do you mind me asking? Or do you mind saying?
33.
So 33. So there's like 18 years difference between us, and it's still fascinating or surprises me, I should say, when you say, you know, that even when you was at school, you know, people didn't want to necessarily come out because of ridicule or bullying. And I think we're getting to a better place now, but discrimination still exists, particularly within the LGBTQ plus community as well. But when I was at school, you know, it was the 80s. And when I first started to question my sexuality, forgetting the whole religious side of things and my religious background, it was right in the middle of the AIDS pandemic,
Yeah.
and it was a scary time, so not only was I kind of struggling with my sexual identity, but also having this cloud that every single time you turned on the TV, there was adverts about it, or it was being discussed in soap operas like EastEnders at the time, and all this kind of stuff. It was everywhere, and there was a real stigma against gay people because they were the cause of this. That's how it was perceived at the time and how it was propagated, really. So yeah, and it's even today, it's only in the last 2, 3 years that gay people can give blood in this country. But I don't know about Scotland, but certainly in England, you could only
As,
give blood like 3 years ago.
as far as I'm aware, you've got to abstain from any form of anal sex for, is it 3 months to be able to give
Okay,
blood? Or am I making that up?
I don't know. Here it used to be 7 years. If you had slept with a man, or you was a woman who had slept with a bisexual man, because the perception was that gay and bisexual men are more promiscuous and therefore more likely to have HIV, which is just,
Right.
it's mind blowing. But even now, I was watching a program just the night before last about the Church of England and how they still won't allow same-sex marriage. And again, I don't know what it's like in Scotland, but the Church of England are really kind of digging their heels in, and they have put kind of surveys out to members of the church, but there is still, listening to the voices of some of the clergy there and how against it they are. It's, there's still discrimination.
Yeah.
So I think, yes, you're right what you're saying. Had I been a 15-year-old boy into tarot, or 16 when I first got my tarot deck, knowing that there was a queer tarot out there, then I would feel more included and more accepted. I'm delivering training at the moment to some learners. I did one last Thursday and I've got 2 more this week, sessions that we're delivering. We talk about the importance of role models, and if you are somebody who's coming to terms with their sexuality, which can happen, by the way, at any stage of life, then, having access to resources and role models on TV, seeing, footballers that you admire coming out, actors coming out, pop stars coming out, but also having queer representation in pop culture, like tarot, it's really important,
Yeah.
So yeah, and for too long, gay and bisexual people have been erased from history books, and I mean, we only have to take the RWS, don't we? And the whole sort of, is that a same-sex couple in the Ten of Cups? Is that Pixie, and was her partner, or was her lifelong friend, her lover, and all this kind of. Well, of course, back in 1909, she wouldn't be
Yeah.
able to say. So yeah, so I think it's really important,
Yeah.
and there's lots of. Nancy says, seriously, I thought the Church of England allowed it. No, when the same-sex marriage laws came in, they did a consultancy, and the Church in Wales and the Church of England were very opposed to it. So the law, it came into law with the exception of the Church of England and the Church in Wales. They didn't have to follow the law. They had an exemption. So, and it's still in place at the moment. It could change, and hopefully it will change, but at the same time, I don't know. Mormon church, which I grew up in, absolutely a no-no. You lose your membership if you have sex with somebody of the same gender as you.
Yeah. It sucks, doesn't it? I think as well as representation being important in general, I think it's really important to have positive representation, positive stories seen in this deck. Actually, one of the things that makes me chuckle about this deck, I don't know if you've noticed, but barely anybody is smiling. But it is still a very colourful and positive deck, and you get like TV shows like Love Victor and Heartstopper that tell really positive stories. These to me are also, it's not just about representing, and yet we need to kind of authentically represent the history and show genuinely what's happened. But I think it's important in this day and age to show that you can be gay and have whatever your happily ever after looks like. You can have that. Do you know what I mean? Whatever that picture looks like, you can have it.
Yeah.
So I think that's another thing that this deck does reasonably well. If they were
Yeah.
smiling a wee bit more, it could be a bit better, but that's all right.
Yeah, no, you're right. And again, watching Heartstopper, I don't know if it was last week or the week before I watched it, I just remember thinking, what a mainstream, positive story. I kept expecting some sort of tragedy to come along, because I remember the first time, Hollywood embraced a gay storyline with Brokeback Mountain, but one of them got killed because they were gay at the end, and it was every time you got a story, either on a soap opera, in a drama, or, in Hollywood, it was always tragic. Long-time companion. I remember going to see that in the early 90s, coming out feeling really depressed. So it's wonderful now that we get things like Heartstopper and Love Victor and film Love Simon, because it's being woven, as it should be, into the same way as we get all the other kind of storylines of that genre, that include straight couples and love stories and everything else. So yeah. Again, because of the generation, well, 18, yeah, I could be old enough to be your father. I would have been very young, of course, but how do you feel about the word queer, being as this is called Queer Tarot? What's your thoughts on the word?
So I have no aversion to it, but whilst I say that, I fully appreciate that the reason I have no aversion to it is because I didn't live in a time when that was used in a bad way. Do you know what I mean? It's just not something that I've ever had to endure, so I don't have that emotional reaction to it. So I think like when it's, what's the word, taken back, when it's reclaimed, what's the word I'm trying to think of?
Reclaimed.
Reclaimed. When the word is
Yeah.
reclaimed, I was quite happy to accept it and use it openly because I had never had that negative experience of it. But is that different for you?
Yeah, I really struggled when I started hearing, probably about 10 years ago, starting hearing the word. I mean, there was always, even in the 80s, gay pride marches where people would chant, "I'm here, I'm queer, get used to it." And I used to wince when I heard it, but I just remember being in a very small town of Long Eaton in Nottingham in the 80s during Thatcher's Britain, when she brought in Section 28, which banned any sort of books about in the libraries about homosexuality. It wasn't on the curriculum. When you was talking about PSE and relationships, you could only talk about straight couples. Teachers were forbidden from even having discussions about same-sex relationships. So I was in, and Britain at the time was very oppressive for gay people. And then, as I mentioned, also the whole AIDS thing, which was a worldwide thing. But in my town, it was a very factory town, and the word queer was only ever used in a really derogatory way, And I remember my first job when I left school at 16, I was in the Rocky Horror Show and I played Frankenfurter. And I can remember coming off stage on such a high because, you know, I was able to do a performance and I loved it. And one of the lads from the Rise department saying to me at the bar, and excuse my French, actually said, "Are you fucking queer?" And just, you know, really sort of coming crashing down again to like, oh my God, you know. And at the time I didn't know, you know, I've been married, I've been engaged twice, you know, I used to class myself as bisexual. But that's where I talk about sexuality being quite fluid. It's certainly been fluid for me. But yeah, the word queer, I really struggled with because it was only ever used in a negative way in the 80s, which was my teenage years and my kind of formative years when I think about my coming to terms with my sexual orientation. A few years ago, when we had the first ever tarot meetup, Kelly Bear was here and Becca and Elle, and we went to a shop and I bought a t-shirt that said, I think it says queer as fuck, and it's purple with loads of glitter and it's so camp, so not me. And I was talking, and they was like, buy it because it will change your attitude towards it. And I bought it. I've never dare wear it. I'll wait for a Pride event and I'll wear it. But yeah, the word queer, I'm better with it now. And because I work with young people and I see them embrace that word and use it in a positive way, I do think it's important if a word's been used against any community in a negative way, that it's fantastic when they take the power back and reclaim it and say, you know, we're going to turn this into such a positive word that you using it will have less impact. Then that's a good thing, isn't it? But,
yeah, absolutely.
Cool. I hope I'm not missing. So Jonathan says, I have mixed feelings about the word queer because I was coming to age when the word was being reclaimed, started in the late 90s. I've been called queer in a negative way and I've claimed it too. Yeah. And I guess it is a kind of generational thing. So Gerald says, when I came out in the 80s, my sister's first reaction was, I'm going to die from AIDS. Yeah. And
That's
lots
quite
of
a
people,
tough
that was,
blow to come from your sister, Gerald. I'm sorry to hear that.
yeah, it is. But I think it's probably, again, people of our age, it was a very common thing. If you told somebody you was gay, they'd say, well, be careful. And I get it, you know, I guess it's from a place of love, because you've got to think of the media and how they, you know, portrayed AIDS, and the stuff that was said about it, the mistruths that were said about it. So again, if you're coming out as gay and everybody's associating, I mean, they used to say terribly, you know, gay stood for got AIDS yet. You know, that's what gay
Really?
stood for. Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. So again, if you're coming out, if it's from a place of love, you know, be careful. I get it, but I don't blame the people for saying it because that's all they was drip fed for many
Yeah.
years.
It's another it's just another example of how powerful representation and like all that stuff is. Do you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
I know that, like I've heard lots of people say, you know, oh, words are just words, and you know, if we're just saying stuff and that, then it's, you know, like what is it really doing at the end of the day? It's not as if you're going up and you're slapping someone, or do you know what I mean? But words, I've said this a couple of times in different contexts, but words really are
Yeah.
you know, they carry a quite a punch, so they do.
Yeah,
Um,
and you know, sometimes it words. I mean, I think of something like Karen Carpenter, you know, from the Carpenters, beautiful brother and sister act, and somebody referred to her. They said to Richard Carpenter, "Your chubby little sister." That resulted in her dying because she developed anorexia because somebody had called her chubby, and she was in the public domain. Words can have devastating consequences, you know,
yeah,
um, and people have taken their lives because of bullying and words that have been used against them. So So yeah, words are extremely powerful, and if said in a derogatory way, can have a lifetime of an impact. So okay, so shall we talk about the deck? I just
Sure.
kind of wanted to just talk about those couple of things, really. You know, why the
Yeah.
deck is important, but also I am mindful that when we use the word queer, that you know there probably would be people watching this that could have an issue with it.
Yeah.
What's Ben saying? Some people used to say sticks and stones will break my bones, but words will never hurt me. But I actually think words can damage psychologically. Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I
Yeah.
guess you've got to have a really thick skin for words not to hurt you. And I still think there's certain words that can even get through the toughest of skins. So,
That's
all
true.
right. So, first impressions when you got it. What do you think? What did you think of like the design and everything like that?
I I was pretty impressed, like the box and how it's made up, nice and sturdy. Even like I know the kind of a smaller box inside is a tuck box, but I quite like it.
Yeah,
It's quite a sturdy wee tuck box.
it is
Um,
very.
so yeah, it's the book's quite good. I like it. It has that kind of a puts me in mind of like the Wild Unknown, and the Wild Unknown Animal Spirit
Yeah,
Oracle deck. Those kind of a uh, the way that it's made up.
for the
Um,
box inside the box.
yeah.
Yeah,
So yep, it ticks that box for me.
yeah. I think, and this was Ben used the word earlier when he glided me. He said, "How? Oh, Ben, how did you word it? He didn't use the word cheap. He said it's very affordable. That was the word. He said it's a very affordable deck, isn't it? I don't know what you paid for yours because Amazon goes up and down, but I paid £17 for mine.
Oh,
Can
good
you remember?
question. I can't remember off the top of my head, but it was between 10 and 20. And I've got a
Yeah,
feeling it was more on the lower side of that, to be honest, Simon, but I could be misremembering it. It was probably around about the same.
yeah,
But I agree. It kind of the way the Witch's Wisdom was like really good value for your money. Like it was really good quality considering the price it was. This is the same as that, is what I would say.
yeah. And I mean, I first saw this on Marty's channel, Tara in the City, and he paid 15 for his, but
Mm.
it fluctuates. But for less than £20, um, to get the quality, like you said, Chris, it's really sturdy. You know, you can have it in the outer box. You can store it in a little tuck box if you're short of space.
Mhm.
The book, I just thought is amazing. I love this book. I love the springiness of it. It's got that sort of
Yeah.
nice, and everything's in these beautiful rainbow colours to match our background.
Yeah, it's really nice. It's a good book. Have you had a look? I know you don't really tend to use spreads, so I suppose this might be a section that you maybe skip by in books. I don't know. Have you had a look at the spreads in it?
I skip by them.
I knew it. No, the spreads. Do you know one thing I really like? There's a spread that's on page 19, and it's called the New Relationship Spread. And I mean, it's a simple kind of a cross type spread. Um, but I like how so that number three. In fact, hang on, I can actually show you with this camera. So this is it here, right? But see how number three has this plus plus under it?
Yeah,
So number three is a card that means the other person in the relationship, but the plus plus is to include people who, are in like polyamorous relationships or in relationships with perhaps more than just one person. So the plus
that's
plus
cool.
is to be considerate of, different types of relationships. Which I think I like that. I think that's kind of important to do as well.
Yeah, and I mean, I do. when I say I skip by it, it's I do look at them because they tend to always do whatever guidebook you get. They tend to do one that's befitting of the theme as well, don't they? So I always
Yeah,
have a look at what they're included. But there's a couple of bits I just wanted to share from the book, if that's all right,
of
Chris.
course.
Because I just want to give people an idea of the kind of writing that's in the book. Because, you know, we always talk about, well, what does the card say? Or you get some keywords, you get a message, you get a reverse, and that sort of thing. But when we was talking at the beginning about, you know, why it's important to have a queer tarot, I thought it might be nice to listen to the voice of the creators as well. And they talk about why it's necessary here. And it's under the introduction, it says, we thought it only necessary that the queer community have a deck that focuses on the trials and tribulations we face living our everyday truth. In a world where trans people are consistently stripped of their rights and endangered, queer couples are discriminated against in family planning, and fatal hate crimes continue to happen without justice, queer people need a safe space and something to turn to when things get really ugly. That's really powerful, isn't it? You know, we talked about some of the reasons, but and still how discrimination is still prevalent today. But you know, hate crimes, you know, they're still happening. They're still happening here. They're still happening in other parts of the world, and you know, in some places where same-sex relationships are still punishable by death, then you know it just kind of solidifies for me why something like this is really important.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, not even just in other countries, you know, like when you think of, you know, the trans community and all of the absolute shit that they are going through
Yeah,
right now in
yeah,
our own country and our own countries, you know, across the pond. Uh, yeah, we've still got a long way to go, I think.
yeah, absolutely. And I'm not going to mention no names, and it was just a discussion I was having, and I really enjoyed having the discussion. It wasn't said in a negative way, but they were saying, well, and it was a member of the LGBT Q plus community who's also a tarot reader. There was like, well, I don't really see myself in the queer tarot. And what I love about this deck in particular is that you know, I'm a jeans and a t-shirt guy, or a pair of chinos and a t-shirt. I don't dress flamboyantly or wear makeup or anything like that. But there is such representation within this deck. And when you think about the fact that, I mean, in the UK, where we both are, we have the Equality Act, don't we? And within that Equality Act, there's 9 protected characteristics, sexual orientation being just one of them. So these are marginalized groups that have got certain protections in law. But even within this marginalized group, there is a whole raft of diversity, you know, because you can be LGBTQ plus and be a person of color and be disabled, a person of faith, you know, any gender, any age, any body size, any culture. So what this tarot deck does is it tries to, you know, encompass all that. Whereas I've got other LGBTQ plus themed decks that don't do that. You know, they tend to go for the body beautiful. You know, and it's like picking up Attitude magazine. And as a when I first picked up Attitude magazine in my 20s, and as a overweight guy, I nothing spoke to me. Nothing spoke to me about the David Beckham body beautiful type images I was looking at. Yes, it was nice to look at, but it just made me feel more isolated from the community.
Yeah.
But it says here, and again, just a little bit, this is under queerness in tarot. because this person was also saying, you know, this is another RWS deck, and yeah, we've got an RWS deck, but tarot grows and and changes through the year. And it says the tarot is a tool that has grown and changed through many generations, much like the ever-changing collective understanding of the queer experience. Incorporating queer experiences into tarot, making it more inclusive for the greater number of people, is one of the many ways we can continue to normalize the LGBTQ plus community. As a practice, tarot helps you find yourself, which is something everyone in the queer community can use a hand with in this very heteronormative world. And I just think this book. There's not a vast amount of information before you get to the cards, but there's enough there, to really explain why it's been published, why it's come to being. Is there anything else you wanted to say about the book, Chris?
I don't think so, no. Only that it's a fantastic book when it comes to just giving the interpretations and stuff. It really does the job there as well for me.
Yeah.
I can't even remember whether it describes the images, but it's like you say, it's a Smith way. It doesn't need to describe the images. We know the images. Yeah, like it just kind of I mean, like it's got like it's got a bit for reverse, and then it's got for like things to consider as well. Do you know what I mean? I like it when a book goes into more detail like that, and like breaks it down and delivers the messages in different ways. I just think it's really good for for people that are just kind of getting to know um the tarot. It's good for them to see. All right, okay, well, yeah, I get it. That I can look at this card in different ways. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, and you're right. The things to consider is just that extra bit, isn't it? But also they credit the model as well. So everybody in the queer tarot is somebody, and it gives them the name. So like the Fool is Alette, and then it states their pronoun as well. So
Oh, okay.
Alette is they, she, and then it's also got the dog is called Lana
Oh,
for the Fool. So I really
that's
like
cute.
that. Yeah, it is cute. And the way they do it, they don't give you a thumbnail image. You get your major arcana spread out like that, and then it goes into the writing for each card. But it's a really nice book. It's 172 pages, but it's one that you can just carry around with you because it doesn't get scuffed or anything because it's got this kind of springy a springiness to it.
Yeah.
So cards. Your thoughts?
I like decks that are glidey. That is one thing for me that I quite appreciate about a deck. Decks like the Llewellyn decks and low Scarabeo decks, even like your US games type stuff. I really like those. Superior Smooth NPC is just perfect. Because they're glidey and you can fan them out on the table and all that kind of a thing. I like to do that with my decks because sometimes I use that when I'm reading. And this one is quite difficult to do. Maybe I say this all the time. I always have to kind of remind myself if I actually put a cloth or something down on the table, it would probably be fine. But right now, if I try and do it, I just drag the entire deck across the table. But I mean, it's good quality. It's a nice kind of a chunky, thick deck.
Yeah.
The cards feel nice. They've got this nice kind of a soft matte type finish.
They're
So
big as well, aren't they? They're quite a large compared to a standard. I always say standard, and people are like, what does standard mean? You know, like a US games,
Oh yeah.
playing cards type deck. They are bigger, so they're
Yeah, I
quite
hadn't even noticed. Like, I hadn't even thought about it just looking at them, but wow, right enough.
wider and taller. So
Yeah, yeah.
I would imagine somebody with quite small, petite hands might struggle to manage this because it's so thick. I would say, I mean, I know GSM isn't about the thickness, it's about the weight, isn't it? But with the weight of this and the thickness of this, I would imagine this is about 400 GSM. It's got to be.
Yeah.
You see, I really like this cardstock because I don't know, it kind of reminds me of the independent indie decks, the indie decks that you get, you know, where they're like really nice matte finished and they've got like that nice kind of, you know, when you pull them apart, they make that noise as you slide them off each
Yeah,
other.
I know what you mean. Yeah,
It's
yeah,
all about a sensory experience.
I know.
But
That is another thing about it actually that you mention it. Like, I'm a riffle shuffler. I'm an overhand shuffler as well, but I need to riffle shuffle my decks. And this is a tough one to riffle shuffle. Both, well, no, the size of it is fine, but I have got reasonably big hands. But oh, funny you asked, Jonathan. But actually being able to kind of bend it properly and get that, I mean, it's doable, but it's not the easiest. And I would imagine after doing it 7 times, my hands are going to be killing me. So yeah, it's not the best for that, but I mean, I suppose you're never going to please everyone, are you? Do you know what I mean? And it's better to have a nice, sturdy, strong deck than something that's flimsy and, you know, that can riffle
yeah,
shuffle.
yeah. I mean, for me, I don't riffle shuffle, so I'm just overhand
I know.
shuffler. I've spent ages putting these in order, so I'm not I'm not going to shuffle. I almost shuffled it then. I'll be like, no. But yeah, I was quite pleased because I big plates of meat I have. So having a deck like this in this size, it was quite nice. But again, for £17, you know, with the packaging, the book, the card quality, I really don't like thin cards. I know some people do. Some people love Llewellyn, because, you know, especially if you're a riffle shuffler. But I just I like a sturdy deck.
Yeah,
I love the backs. I think the backs are one of my favorite backs. Really, really love them. And it's in
yeah, they
keeping
are
with
pretty.
the rainbow. It's in keeping with the box design. Um, just really nice. You like
Yeah,
the back? Did you said it was pretty?
yeah, they're quite like visually pleasing, aren't they? Nice colours and nice soft colours, and just a nice kind of a geometric effect. Gerald's asking, did you say who published the deck? I don't think we said. So the creators, the artists are Ashley Molesso and Chess Needham, sorry. And
Yeah.
the publisher is RP Studio, Hatchet Book Group. So
I don't know what Justin's asking. He says, Simon, I used to do that too. I got tired of having to mix up new decks. It takes too long.
overhand only means. Well, that's the thing about overhanding is it takes so long to get a deck properly mixed up. That's why I riffle. 7 riffle
I've
shuffles and it's nicely randomized.
I've got it sorted. I've got it sorted. You take your new deck, okay, and you do 8 piles. So, you know, like you're dealing playing cards, you've got eight
Yeah,
players around the table. You take 8 piles and you go like that, and then you randomly put them back together, and then you shuffle, sorted.
yeah,
5 minutes. Yeah, that's all it takes.
right, okay. That's
Or
that, is that.
you edge a deck, and you just lay them all out.
Oh yeah, I suppose that'll do it. But I'll tell you this now, Simon, if we ever meet in person, we're going to make a video together where I'm teaching you how to riffle shuffle. It is going to happen.
That would be comedy genius because people have tried in the past. And
It'll just be like
never.
78 card pickup, 10 minutes of 78 card pickup.
Someone said to me, "Oh, get a plastic deck because it's so easy to learn with a plastic deck." So I bought that the one that looks like the golden electric cabling. What's it called? It's like black plastic cardstock with gold lines on it. It's gone out of my head. I tried with that.
Thread, golden thread, maybe no.
Something like that. Something like golden thread.
Is
But
the one that Shane had and Shane really liked?
Yes.
Right. I can't remember what it's
Yeah.
called, so I don't know why I said that. It wasn't useful whatsoever. But yeah, I think I know the one you mean.
Oh, you see, I'm not alone. Pamela also puts it into 8 piles. Wonder why it was 8. I thought I was coming up with something clever. Only to know that other people do it as well. Yeah, so, and it's not if we meet, Chris, it's when we meet.
Yeah, that's
It
true.
will happen. It will happen.
Well, what are you drinking, by the way, Simon? I never asked.
Coffee with oat milk, my usual coffee with oat milk.
Nice.
I'm trying to. Candy inspired me to try and drink less coffee when she came on the Hermit's Cave and said she was drinking hot water. I can't go that far. 2 years ago, I switched to caffeine, but now I'm trying to have, because I have to have my first cup of the day when I wake up. And so I went out this morning, had a Costa coffee with a friend, and this is my second cup of coffee of the day, and I've had flavoured water throughout the day, just to mix it up a bit. So, yeah.
I've got in your honour, Simon, because I knew I was coming on with you. I've got an Eton Mess flavoured Baileys, so I have.
Oh, you jammy bugger!
And I've also got a glass of diluting juice I'm drinking as well.
I didn't even know. Is that a new flavour then? Eton Mess.
I think
Baileys?
It must be. I hadn't seen it. It was Sandy that got me it. Ironically, he got me it when I wasn't well the first time. He says this is for you, like for when you're better.
Wow.
But,
I'll have to try that at Christmas. Yeah, I'll try it at Christmas. I'm trying to be really good at the moment, the whole Stimmer World thing, and Baileys is just like, yeah. If I can't just have one glass of Baileys, I finish the bottle. So I drink it. I drink it like I'm drinking milk. So, yeah, the artwork then. Now it's called something, isn't it? What is it called? Risograph art style, isn't it?
Tell me more about that. I've not heard of that before.
Okay, so in the book, under the artwork on the second page, it says these cards are extra special because of the original artwork was printed on a risograph. Risograph machines, or risograph, I think it is actually risograph machines. No, it is risograph. Risograph. Are these wild duplicators from Japan that look like clunky copy machines you would find in an office. They were originally intended for mass printing in single colours, like for flyers or letters. Within the past decade or so, risograph printing has taken an artful turn and is now evolving into a wonderful and experimental new way to produce art, using soy-based inks, some of which are fluorescent or metallic. Each card was designed and set up with a CMYK separation. With each colour, that's the different colours, isn't it? Like cyan and magenta.
Yellow and
yeah. With each colour layer printed separately. For those Riso freaks out there, the colours we printed with are made from combinations that included sunflower yellow, light lime, fluorescent pink, fluorescent orange, aqua, cornflower blue, and black. So it's been printed many, many times with a different layer of colour each time. And I just thought that was such a cool way. And that's why, it's not perfect. Look at the yellow in the sun. It doesn't go
Yeah.
right to the edge and everything. But to think that that's probably been through a printer 4 or 5 times to get that effect, I think is really cool.
Yeah. I think Jamie might have just asked about the how do you find the line work not being as crisp as most decks? So I suppose that's maybe
Yeah,
the reason why that is, because it's this risograph thing.
yeah,
Um, so yeah, I mean, I think the thing that really jumps out and appeals to me and grabs me about this deck is the colours. Do you know what I mean?
yeah.
Like visually, it's the use of colour. So the kind of I suppose the line work not being as crisp doesn't really bother me as much, if I'm honest with you.
No, no, I agree. And there's that beautiful lime green that I was talking about.
Yeah.
It doesn't, but it kind of, when I did my walkthrough of this, I said something along the lines of it's kind of like RWS meets the tripping weight meets this might hurt, but it's also got that imperfection, like some of the old Marseille screen printing, or
Mm,
well, it was screen printing back then. It was woodblock, wasn't it? But
mm,
then it went from woodblock to screen printing, and how it's not perfect. But when you then read about how these images were created, and when you
yeah,
think there's something like this that has this gorgeous rainbow in it, would have gone through
yeah,
the printer um, 6 times to get those colours is brilliant. And look how the pink at the top goes out of the lines. It's like how
yeah,
I used to colour. Well, probably still would colour if I had a colouring book and felt tips.
yeah,
That would be
yeah.
me.
It's really good.
But yeah, and the colours are gorgeous.
And yeah,
So
when
did
you
you
look
want?
at like the dress and the hermit, like the colours are really, to me, look really kind of intentional,
Yeah,
precise and intentional.
yeah, it's like
Um,
tie dye, isn't it?
yeah, but in the kind of the pride flag colours.
Oh, Jamie says, I have a lot of Risograph art. I enjoy the bright colours in the deck.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it's particularly the fluorescent colours. I just think reminds me when I was at school in the 80s, fluorescent was a huge, it had a big revival, and we used to wear fluorescent socks, but you had to wear them odd. So you'd have like a fluorescent pink sock on one foot and a fluorescent green sock on the other one. And you thought you was dead cool.
No, that's
So
so strange that you say that, because I was talking earlier on. I came downstairs to Sandy and I said, "Where are all my socks? I've just had to make a decision between wearing Saturday socks or Christmas socks." And he's like, "Why does it matter? Sometimes I wear socks that aren't even, that are odd." And I was like, "Well, I'm not stooping to that level. Where are all my socks?" And it turns out I think they're sitting in the tumble dryer. They've been dried and not taken out or something. But um, yeah, just when you said about wearing odd socks there, I was like, "That's strange." I was having a conversation like that just earlier on.
I thought you were going to tell me you'd got some fluorescent socks on then when you was like,
No,
that's really
no,
strange. I was
no.
like, oh. Um, what are Saturday socks? I've got to ask.
Socks that say Saturday on them.
Oh, they actually say Saturday.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
do you wear them? So do you wear them on a Saturday because they say it?
To be honest, I know this is really stupid. Normally, I don't wear them at all, because wearing like I've got one for each day of the week, and wearing them would entail going through each one and checking to see what day it is and finding the correct day. And I can't be bothered with that, so I just don't normally go near them. I just normally ignore them because I can't be bothered checking them all. And like right now, I'm wearing Saturday socks on a Sunday because it was that or Christmas socks, and I'm not wearing Christmas socks in June. No, May. In May.
In May.
So yeah, I normally don't wear them.
So, yeah. So what are your thoughts on the images, Chris? I'll show a few. And
So there's some that I really love for different reasons. I love the Emperor just because I think that we've got, like, in fact, I can do this, so I can. I think my phone camera is maybe a bit better, Simon. So if I no, I'm doing the wrong one. Um, the Emperor, I think we're seeing top surgery scars. So I think the Emperor is a trans man. And as I said earlier, I'm big on, um, you know, um, being a trans advocate and trans representation, especially just now. So that's a really nice card for me, just because of that. The Justice card, I like for a whole different reason. It's actually the floor in the Justice card. And I know that I'm being a nerd here, but do you see how it has this checkerboard floor, this kind of a chessboard floor, which is quite common in to see in tarot cards. Quite a lot of them, particularly in cards like the Empress and the Emperor, they show this kind of a floor. Normally, when I look at it, I think of things like strategy and that kind of a thing. But in this Justice card, at first I looked at it and I thought, well, why is the floor all warped? But then I thought, well, it's converging towards this person. It's converging towards justice. They're the central point, and justice, following the Smith-Waite system, is the center of the major arcana. And it's the center of, like, a civilized society, isn't it? Like justice. So I think that's quite. I realise they maybe didn't really mean that when they did that, but I like when I can pick up on me things like that and they take on a meaning for me. So that's a good one for me. Symbolically speaking. I love death because if, when my time comes, death rocks up in a pair of strawberry Megans, and Gerald, can we just take some time to appreciate Death's Megans? If Death rocks up to me in strawberry Megans, I will happily accept my fate. I think they're fantastic.
yeah,
So yeah, I think there are other cards as well, but I was flipping through the deck there to try and find the ones that I'd kind of earmarked, but I only got that far. But what about
I
you? Is there any particular favourites you've got?
nearly all of them. I know that sounds a bit of a cop out. I absolutely love the Empress card. I think it's stunning. I too love the Emperor. Um, I love when we get body diversity. What I really love, I don't know if you was in, yes, you were, you came yesterday when I did the live and I talked about my retro vintage decks, and like the one in, it always gone out of my head, hoi polloi, with the arch rainbows of the 70s.
Yeah,
The rainbows in this deck, they have those, or every time you see the rainbows, it's like that, and it just connects me back to my childhood as well.
yeah,
Love the fact that the Sun card's riding on a unicorn. I love the celebration of diversity all the way through it, in all its forms.
yeah. There is one card, right? And I'm skipping forward a bit here. But there's one card in it that I don't dislike it. I actually find it quite funny. But it's one card that it feels different to me than what this card normally does and what I tend to feel that it means. Um, and it's the Six of Coins, or Six of Pentacles, sorry. It's this Six of Pentacles. Now, Six of Pentacles for me is normally about, like, kind of a equity, balancing of resources, generosity even. But see, when you look at this this person, I just I get this feeling, and see now that you've told me that these are actually based on people, I almost feel bad saying this. I feel as though I'm now slagging somebody off. So please don't think I am, but it's just the way this card hits me. I almost feel like she's saying, like, "Oh, excuse me, take a picture of me whilst I, give some charity to these peasants." Do you know what I mean? It's almost like it's for show when you look at her face and her stance and what she's doing. It's almost like it's like quick, take a picture, quick, so they can get away before they touch me, type thing. Do you know what I mean? That's just the way that card looks to me, um, which is interesting, and it's definitely not the way I normally read the Six of Pence. Um, so I don't know whether I like that, and I like the difference in that, or if it's something I'm going to struggle with. But it's definitely interesting,
So
and I don't know if anybody else feels like that.
That's Madeline Graves.
Oh, sorry, Madeline.
And
I'm sure you're a lovely person.
do you know what I love? I love that because we tend to, even within our community, we tend to try and pigeonhole, don't we? And I love that a lot of the models here see their gender as something quite fluid. So Madeline Graves is she, her, they, them. Nico Aura, because there's 3 models in that card, is he, him, she, her. And Kyle Parker is he, him, she, her, they, them.
Okay.
And I just think we still, even now, when we even support trans rights, we think of he, him, she, her, they, them. But actually, gender doesn't always work like that. I don't know. I don't want to talk about somebody who I haven't got permission to talk about, so I won't mention any names. But somebody I know very well will present male, female, and non-binary. And they won't be defined. And if they talk about their pronouns, they just say, "Well, I'm happy with whatever." I don't get, and not everybody is, but they don't get offended at all if you use they, she, or him. Because they feel that their gender is very fluid.
Right.
So I just thought that was interesting.
Yeah, I know that the celebrity Jonathan Van Ness, he's a kind of he does oh gosh, I was going to say Queer as Folk there, but that's not what it's called. Queer Eye, given a newer
Oh,
series of
yeah,
Queer Eye that's on Netflix. Um, Jonathan is a non-binary person, but his pronouns are he, she, they. So he is quite happy to be referred to whatever he identifies as,
yeah,
um, anything.
yeah.
So yeah, I've kind of come across that before.
One of my favorite cards is the Four of Cups. I mean, I love the Four of Cups anyway as a
Mm.
card. But what I really like about this is when you said people don't smile a lot in the decks, it's so true. But this is even more emphasized with the t-shirt. Now, I've got on my Facebook a t-shirt that I wore in the 80s, which was the smiley face. It was the acid kind of thing. But it's represented on the t-shirt that this person is feeling really glum and nonchalant. But you notice in the devil card as well, the one that's being trampled on has also got
Oh,
the sad face on the
yeah,
t-shirt.
got
So
you.
it really kind of it brings in, because we use emojis in the modern world, don't we, to represent. You'll send a message and we'll put a wink if we're being cheeky, or we'll put
Yeah,
the eye roll if we're frustrated with somebody.
yeah,
And I like the fact that this deck, uses kind of the emojis in the design of the clothing to kind of represent how the model is perhaps feeling, or how the mood of the card is. I love this one as well because it's not very often we see rainbows in this card. But
yeah, it's cute.
and I love that this rainbow flag is fully representative with the brown and the black added as well, rather than the rainbow that you would see in the sky. The kind of Richard of York is back in vain, but here, it's the pride flag rainbow that's used for the Ten of Cups.
Yeah, and the trans colours at the bottom as well.
Yeah, which I think is so cool. So I just think it is one of the most inclusive. I never said exclusive then. The most inclusive decks, and you don't always get that when a deck is created to represent a particular marginalized group. It tends to focus just on that group. But I like the fact that the creators here have recognized that even a diverse group, within it, there is a whole spectrum of lifestyles and genders and sexual orientations and everything else. So it's great. And it's just nice to see a queer deck that has large people in it, because they're very often left out of certainly magazines and things like that I've looked at. Do you think, is it important, Chris, to see ourselves in the tarot?
I think that's a different thing for every individual. You know, that'll be different for different people. For me,
you then,
personally, I actually want to say it's not really. See if I can pick up a deck and think, right, the person that even is that important. I was going to say, like, if I can pick up a deck and feel like the creator, you know, their attitude towards people like me was brand new, was fine, was good, then, I'm happy with it. Even if I don't see someone who looks like me or walks like me or talks like me, it doesn't bother me. As long as I don't think that there's any malice in the deck towards me, then I think I'm good. I think what we need to remember is usually, I suppose it's different when you're reading for yourself. When you're perusing your own decks, collecting decks and using them, obviously you're going to see all the cards. It's a kind of a different for like when you're considering when you're reading for other people, because I know like some considerations that people have as if I'm reading for someone else, I need to make sure that I've got a deck that I need to be considerate towards them. Do you know what I mean? That has them in mind. But if you're reading for someone, how realistically, right? You could have a deck like, for example, this deck, or like the Lightseers, or the Mariel, or whatever. That is quite, that may be considered an inclusive deck. You've got to pull what, maybe 6, 7, maybe 10 cards from that deck. So that deck might be the most inclusive deck in the world, but realistically, you could pull those 10 cards and you're not going to get something that's going to represent that person. So I don't know if that's really, like I say, I think it's individual. I think it's different for everyone. I think for me personally, I can pick up the like the Smith Way, or one of my favourite decks actually is, where do I put it now? It's the Afro Goddess. This is a very feminine deck. It's a melanated deck. It's all people of colour that are in it. And I love it. I love reading with it. I get great readings with it. So personally, I think I have to say no. Actually, I don't think it's all that important. Sorry, that was a really long-winded answer. But yeah, I think I had to chat it out to actually get to where I was going. What about you?
The short answer is no. I don't have to see myself in the tarot. I can pick up an RWS. I have to be careful because I'm mindful that I am a white male, middle-aged white male. I'm cisgendered. Yes, I do, belong to a couple of communities like the LGBTQ plus and the disabled community, but you know, I can pick up the RWS, which is my go-to deck, and you know, it's of a different time. But I feel then that I'm connecting with history when looking at that. But then I have to remember that people of color and people of ages and body sizes and everything else still existed in that time.
Mhm.
So no, I don't have to see myself, but what I do like to see is the environment reflected that I'm a part of. So again, I was having this conversation with somebody the other day. Where I live, it's very diverse in terms of the city I live. But if I travel just an hour from here into the Derbyshire Dales, it's not diverse at all. Or where I work, it's not diverse at all. But you know, I like to see my world represented. And I think if we're making tarot decks today, then we should be representing what's happening in the here and now. Because in 100 years' time, when people look back at the tarot decks that would be, oh, you know, antiques because they're over 100 years old, they're going to look at this deck that was created in 2022. And I would like to think that it's representing, you know, our societies and the fact that we are, you know, multifaceted in many ways. So whilst I don't necessarily need to see myself in it, I don't. When I look through that, I don't think, oh, that kind of looks like me, because that's kind of looking like they're wearing a t-shirt and jeans and got no hair and it's a certain size. It doesn't matter. It's my community. But what I appreciate from a deck like this is actually, I could walk into Hockley, which is the bohemian part of this city, which is a 3 or 4 minute walk from my elevator, and see these people.
Mm.
And so for me, it's important that it's representative of the here and now and the environment that I live in.
Yeah.
So that's my long-winded answer as well. There was
Yeah.
a question. It was from the lovely Tortoiseshell Moon. It said, "Is there age diversity too?" There is, but again, it's going to be a person's perception, because unless somebody's got grey hair, then how do you tell someone's age, particularly in a sketchy drawing? And you know, not everybody who's of a certain age has grey hair. You know, my mum dyed her hair right until her last year of life. But if you just look at some of these images, you can perhaps tell that they're of an older generation. But again, I guess it's subjective. Some people might say, well, not necessarily, but they tend to be older figures. But I'm not quite sure where it is with disability. I don't really think I can see disability that much. I would be guessing at some of them, but
Yeah.
other than that, it's a pretty inclusive deck. What I also like is the non-gender specific cards that you would find with the traditional tarot. So, you know, if we think of the RWS or the Marseille or even the Thoth, when you think about, you know, the Emperor, the High Priestess, even the Hermit of the more traditional decks, they are gender specific. But we don't read them like that. You know, in this modern world, if a female pulls the Hermit, they're going to connect with the archetype of what a hermit is.
Yeah.
But what I love about this, not just with the courts, you know, in some cards, you look and, you know, I'm just opened it to this one, which is the Queen of Wands. I don't automatically know the gender, and that's wonderful. I don't need to know the gender, because we can all embrace the energy of the Queen of Wands. It doesn't matter if the Queen of Wands is being represented by a male, female, somebody who's non-binary, or other. You know, it's the archetype, the energy of the Queen of Wands, and what that encompasses. So I like the fact that this deck doesn't, even though it's based on the RWS and very much based on the RWS, it doesn't conform to any sort of gender representation.
Yeah. See, on that note, Simon, just out of interest, what are your thoughts? I'm sorry if this is becoming too general because I am straying a wee bit away from the queer tarot, but you know how the queer tarot retains the titles like, High Priestess, Empress, Emperor, Hierophant. It retains those, King, Queen. It has those, I suppose, gendered titles, but obviously the representation comes in what we see on the cards. And then we get some decks that obviously change the titles to be deliberately, like they change the courts so that you've got like I can't even think of an example now, but you know what I mean.
So that,
So
do you mean
what's
so
your
that the not non-gender specific? You mean?
yeah. So look, when you don't have queen and king, you've got like I don't know, like nurturer and crown or something like that. Like, what's your thought? Do you have a preference on what they do, or
Not really. I mean, I get why they do it. There is tarot decks, isn't there, like Numinous and other ones where they steer away from kind of king and emperor and all that sort of thing. For me, when anything's changed in tarot, because I'm a bit of a traditionalist, in terms of the structure, I always feel a bit irked. I'm more irked when things are changed from like swords to feathers or something like that, or quills, and I just kind of, because then my brain is going, okay, quills is a feather, is representing air, which obviously means swords, and I don't want that. But when it comes to the archetypal energy of the card, it doesn't matter. If I mean, and you're the same, Page of Cups in terms of our significator card, but that could have easily been the Queen of Cups, and I wouldn't have an issue with that if my Myers-Briggs came out more like the Queen of Cups, or I identified with the Queen of Cups, and maybe one day I will, start to identify more with the Queen of Cups. It makes no difference because it's the archetype, it's what that embodies. And when I, again, not to go down a tangent or a rabbit hole, but when I started out on YouTube, my channel was called Two Spirit, because I embodied both the masculine and the feminine energies that I have within me. And also being the two paths that I followed, Buddhism and paganism. But I personally don't mind seeing High Priestess, and there is balance in the tarot. We have the Emperor and the Empress, we have the High Priestess and the Hierophant. So yeah, I don't have an issue, but I don't have an issue when it's changed either. I don't look at it and think, oh, why have you changed the Emperor to something else like ruler or leader, or but it doesn't irk me, because it connects to my feminine side if I'm working with feminine energies. I will use all feminine decks sometimes. Tower of the Crone I love, but
yeah? Oh, that's cool.
what about you?
I think I'm the same as you. I think as long as it still embodies that archetype, as long as it still embodies, it like takes on that energy, and it doesn't take me too much mind energy to work out what the hell I'm looking at, then I'm good with it. It's the ones where, just to take an example, is it the Wildwood Tarot that just completely goes off in a different, does its own thing, So like, it's not just that they've changed the emperor to something. The Wheel of Fortune is all of a sudden something completely different, and it's those ones where I'm a wee bit more like, oh, it's going to take me so much brain power just to work out what I'm looking at. It's more those ones that I tend to struggle with. But yeah, I mean, as long as I can still so decks like the Numinous, and I think that new one, the Inner Dimensions Tarot, I'm sure, maybe I'm wrong actually. I think that might label the courts differently. So as long as I can still easily identify, what it is that I'm dealing with, then I'm happy about it. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, to finish off, shall we pull a card from the deck?
Sure.
That might be cool. We've been on for coming up to an hour and 25 minutes. I just wanted also to canvass other people's opinions. If you've got this deck, just say yes if you've got the deck. And if you haven't, but you're tempted, put tempted or something like that. I'd like to see kind of what people think to it. So Jamie's got the deck. So we've got a yes. Patsy's got the deck. Sandra's got the deck. There's quite a few people. Well, 3. Plus us. But more. MA's got the deck. Yeah, so there's a few people here that's got it. I don't start shuffling really, shouldn't I? I can hear you shuffling away, and I haven't even started
Oh,
yet.
sorry, my obnoxious riffle shuffling sounds.
I haven't had a chance to put it into 8 piles.
It's fine when you're only pulling one card, isn't it? But my thing
Yeah.
is, see if I'm pulling cards and I get like consecutive cards, I'm like, have I not shuffled that right, or were they meant to come out like that? Whereas if I know that I've properly randomized the deck, then I'm cool with consecutive cards coming out because I know it was
I've got
supposed
a
to happen like
jumper.
that.
I've
Ooh.
got a jumper. Kim doesn't, but we'll add to the very long list. Calla is tempted. Tortoiseshell Moon is tempted, and it's in their basket as we speak. Bryant is tempted. Vintage Moon says yes, they have it. Kay is tempted. Oh, cool card.
Oh, funny. Okay. You
Now,
going
wouldn't
first?
it be amazing? Wouldn't it be amazing if we pulled exactly the same card?
I doubt we have, and I'll tell you, you'll understand why
Because
when I.
I said it's a cool card.
No, because I've pulled the same card that you got. I think you pulled yesterday.
Oh, okay.
I've got the Knight of Pentacles.
Cool.
So will I just fire away? Will I go first?
Yeah.
So for me, this is very much like slow and steady wins the race. Everything that we're going to be doing here, it needs to have intention behind it. This isn't a time for rash actions. This isn't a time for just burning off energy just for the fucking sake of it. This is a time to be thinking about at each step that we're taking. Some might look at us, our peers might look at us and judge us and think, why are they moving so slowly? Overly cautious much. But that's our path right now. That's kind of what we're supposed to be doing. And I feel as though we're heading to a place where we'll understand just how important that is for us. So important to keep your eye on the end game as well. We see that he's very much focused on his pentacle, and there seems to be this kind of a energy that's wisping through the card and off into the future. But there's there's a way to kind of simultaneously keep your eye on the end game, on the end goal, but also keep your mind in the here and now. It's important to balance the two, and be very intentional about your actions, about what you're doing. And I think that's what the Knight of Pentacles really wants to say to us. Is that the card that you pulled yesterday in your life, Simon?
Yeah.
There we go.
Definitely. That's weird. It isn't the Knight of Pentacles. I'm trying to link it, but mine is the Wheel of Fortune. And taking on board what you were saying, you can, rather than rush in, you can get swept along as well sometimes. You know, when we're thinking about the Wheel of Fortune, you can get swept along, but actually, if we realize that every second that we have presents an opportunity and gives us a chance, and that's what the Wheel of Fortune is about. It's about chances that come up. And what we should do, really, rather than be swept along, is to have that energy that Chris just talked about and actually make a conscious decision about how we're going to react to that change that comes around. You know, we don't go into fight, flight, or freeze. What we should actually do is, you know, think it through, see it as an opportunity. When an opportunity knocks, then we should embrace it by, you know, by grabbing it by the horns and intentionally going for that we really want to achieve, if that makes sense. Because yeah, fear holds you prisoner, hope sets you free, and chances come, but sometimes we don't always see them for what they are, a gift. Sometimes every single second that we live is an opportunity to make a change or do something different or seize the moment. Simon, life is busy. Life is what happens while we're busy planning. That's like that's a John Lennon, taken from a John Lennon song. Life is what happens to you while you're busy making other plans. Yeah. Good
About the
point.
experience, isn't it?
Yeah. Chris, I've really enjoyed doing this. Shall we do it again sometime?
Yeah, we should, shouldn't we? I've enjoyed our week. We've got the Cartomancy Cave special.
Yeah,
It's been
it's
really
been
good.
fun. It
Yeah,
has. And
I
and
love geeking out on tarot decks with people, so I do. So
yeah,
thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me. Well, it's like it's on
you're
both
having me
channels,
as
isn't
well.
it? So yeah, thank you so much for being my guest. Thank you so much for letting me be your guest. It's been great.
The feeling's mutual. That's all we can say. Yeah, it's quite novel. It's probably confusing for people, like you say, who subscribe to both of us. But also, it's great for those who might not be, because you know your subscribers discovers that will discover me, and my subscribers might discover you. But yeah, it's really nice to do it, because whilst it's great to have people on your channel, um, when it's something like a deck that you've both got and are both enjoying, then it's nice to be able to share that, you know, and um, rather than having to download the video or put a link in your community tab to say, "Oh, I paid on this,"
Yeah,
then it's nice that we've both got this as a video on our channel, isn't it? So
yeah, it's been
next
great.
time we find we've got a deck in common, um, we should do another Cartomancy Cave special and chat
Definitely.
about
I'm
it.
sure we'll be able to find one among the among the hundreds that we've both got now. I'm sure we'll be able to find a deck that we have in common.
Yeah, definitely. And thank you to everybody that's been here. It's been lovely to see everybody chatting away and joining in the conversation. So yeah, fab. Anything you got coming up on your channel, Chris? That you
Oh gosh, what have I got coming up? So I officially I've got the Mariel study group. I had to think there. Mariel study group that's coming up. I think not Thursday coming, but the following Thursday I'll be live on my channel with that. Unofficially, I've got a couple of people from the community that I'm planning on going live with. So I've spoken to Gerald. I think me and Gerald are going to try and set something up. Kristen Louise Pantel, who has just made a beautiful rune oracle deck.
isn't it gorgeous? I'm gonna have to
Yeah,
get that next time I'm on NPC.
yeah.
It's really well done.
Yeah, so Kristen has said that she would like to come on with me and have like a chat about the deck. So I'm really looking forward to that. And then at some point, I'm going to get that little minx Richie to come on, and we'll finally get his round table reading done. But I'm telling you, he's a jinx, so he is, because It's twice that we've been scheduled for him to come on my channel, and each time I've ended up being really ill. The first time with COVID, and the second time was when I was like, you know, I was really unwell a few weeks back. And I've had to cancel slash postpone it because I've taken not well, and I've just decided, and I've told him that he's a jinx and it's him that's making me not well. So maybe I'll end up with Richie on my channel, or maybe he'll make me not well again. Who knows?
Cool.
What about
And
you? Have you
Vintage
got anything
Moon,
from
I don't know if I have actually. Probably. I haven't got anything planned or anything like any interviews lined up or anything like that. I don't think. I need to check my diary, but yeah, just general stuff. But Vintage Moon says maybe Trompe della Luna illustrated pips,
that?
which just
Oh,
happens to be right at the side of me.
mhm. It's
So
funny because we
maybe,
were we were talking about this deck this morning, weren't we? I
yes,
definitely would love to have a chat about this. Um, you know, there's a couple. I absolutely love it. So I do.
let's
I
do
think
it.
it's a work of
We'll,
genius.
yeah, well, everybody knows, is my hero, my absolute one of my top tarot heroes. I
Yeah.
idolize him. That's why I've got his artwork kind of on my body. So yeah, we'll have to do that. We'll have to schedule something and do another Cartomancy Cave special.
That sounds amazing.
Fab. All right then. So thank you everybody. I'm going to end the broadcast. I feel like I need to press my thingy, but we can't. So we'll just say goodbye to everyone. So thanks for being here, everyone.
Bye,
Take care.
everyone. Thank you, Simon. See you later.
Thanks, Chris.